Number 1. Which function represents the graph shown? A, f of x is equal to negative x plus 3 squared. B, f of x is equal to negative x minus 3 squared. C, f of x is equal to x plus 3 squared. D, f of x is equal to x minus 3 squared. Number 2. Which function represents the graph shown? F of x is equal to negative x minus 2 squared. G, f of x is equal to negative x plus 2 squared. H, f of x is equal to x minus 2 squared. J, f of x is equal to x plus 2 squared. Number 3. What is the vertex and axis asymmetry of the graph shown in number 2? A, negative 2, 0, and x equals 2. B, negative 2, 0, and x equals 0. C, 0, negative 2, and x equals negative 2. D, 0, negative 2, and x equals 0. Number 4. Compared to the quadratic parent function, which function represents a translation of 3 units to the left and 2 units down? F of x is equal to x minus 3 squared plus 2. G, f of x is equal to x minus 2 squared plus 2. H, f of x is equal to x plus 3 squared minus 2. J, f of x is equal to x plus 2 squared minus 3. Number 5. Which function matches the graph shown? A, f of x equals x minus 2 squared plus 1. B, f of x equals x plus 2 squared minus 1. C, f of x equals x minus 2 squared minus 1. D, f of x equals x plus 2 squared plus 1. Number 6. What is the range of the graph shown in number 5? Y is less than or equal to negative 1. G, y is less than or equal to 3. H, y is greater than or equal to 3. J, y is greater than or equal to negative 1. Number 7. Compared to the graph of the parent function y equals x squared, the graph of f of x is equal to 2x squared plus 4 is A, stretched and translated down, B, stretched and translated up, C, compressed and translated down, D, compressed and translated up. Number 8. Compared to the graph of y equals x squared, the graph of f of x equals x plus 5 squared minus 3 is F, shifted left and translated down, G, shifted right and translated up, H, shifted right and translated down, J, shifted left and translated up. Number 9. How do the graphs of the functions f of x equals x squared plus 9 and g of x equals x squared minus 11 relate to each other? A, 3 units up. B, 7 units up. C, 3 units down. D, 7 units down. Number 10. In the graph of the function y equals x squared plus 5, which describes the shift in the vertex of the parabola if in the function 5 is changed to negative 2. F, the graph of f of x is 2 units above the graph of g of x. G, the graph of f of x is 20 units above the graph of g of x. H, the graph of f of x is 2 units to the right of the graph of g of x. J, the graph of f of x is 20 units to the right of the graph of g of x. Number 11, how does the graph of y equals x squared differ from the graph of y equals x squared minus 4? The graph of y equals x squared minus 4 is wider than the graph of y equals x squared. B, the graph of y equals x squared minus 4 is shifted to the left of the graph of y equals x squared. C, the graph of y equals x squared minus 4 is shifted down from the graph of y equals x squared. D, the graph of y equals x squared minus 4 is narrower than the graph of y equals x squared. Number 12, how does the graph of y equals x squared differ from the graph of y equals 3x squared? F, the graph of y equals 3x squared is shifted up 3. G, the graph of y equals 3x squared is shifted down 3. H, the graph of y equals 3x squared is narrower or stretched. J, the graph of y equals 3x squared is wider or more compressed. Number 13, what steps transform the graph of y equals x squared to y equals 3 times x minus 4 squared plus 4? A, stretch by a factor of 3, translate 4 units to the right and 2 units up. B, stretch by a factor of 3 and translate 4 units to the left and 2 units up. C, reflect across the x-axis, translate 4 units to the left and 2 units up. D, stretch by a factor of 3, reflect across the x-axis, translate 4 units to the left and 2 units up. Number 14, the graph of the equation y equals 0.4x squared minus 2 is shown below. If the graph is translated 3 units up, what will be the equation of the resulting graph? F, y equals 0.4x squared plus 1. G, y equals 0.4x squared plus 5. H, y equals 0.7x squared minus 2. Or J, y equals 3.4x squared minus 2. Number 15. How does the graph of g of x equals 1/2 x minus 3 compare to the graph of the linear parent function? I, g of x is reflected across the x-axis. 2, g of x is less steep. 3, g of x is steeper. 4, g of x has a smaller y-intercept. A, 1 and 3. B, 1, 3, and 4. C, 3 only. D, 2 and 4. Number 16. Which of the following functions of the form y equals ax squared produces the widest or most compressed graph and opens upward? F, y equals 1/4 x squared. G, y equals negative 4x squared. H, y equals 4x squared. J, y equals negative 1/4 x squared. Number 17. Which function represents the transformation of the linear parent function if it is shifted down 1 unit, right 4 units, and stretched by a factor of 2.5? A, g of x equals 5/2 x plus 4 plus 1. B, g of x equals negative 5/2 times x minus 4 minus 1. C, g of x is equal to 5/2 times x minus 4 minus 1. Or D, g of x equals negative 5/2 x plus 4 plus 1. Number 18. Which equation defines the image of y equals x squared reflected across the x-axis and vertically compressed by a factor of 1/2? F of x equals x plus 1/2 squared. G, f of x equals x minus 1/2 squared. H, f of x equals 1/2 x squared. J, f of x equals negative 1/2 x squared. Number 19, if f of x is linear or quadratic and g of x is the transformed function, which of the following transformations were applied to create g of x equals 2 times f of x plus 18? 1, vertical stretch or steeper. 2, vertical compression or less steep. 3, reflection across the x-axis. 4, shift left. 5, shift right. A, 2 and 4. B, 1 and 4. C, 1 and 5. D, 1, 3, and 4. Number 20. How would the graph of the function y equals x squared plus 4 be affected if the function were changed to y equals x squared plus 1? F, the graph would shift 3 units up. G, the graph would shift 3 units down. H, the graph would shift 3 units right. J, the graph would shift 3 units left. Number 21. The graph of a function is shown below. If the graph is translated 7 units down, which of the following best represents the resulting graph? Number 22. What is the domain and range of the quadratic parent function? F, domain, all real numbers. Range, y is greater than or equal to 0. G, domain, x is greater than or equal to 0. Range, y is greater than or equal to 0. H, domain, x is greater than or equal to 2. Range, y is less than or equal to 0. J, domain, all real numbers. Range, y is less than or equal to 0. Number 23. In the transformation form of a quadratic function, f of x is equal to a times x minus c squared plus d, which of the following values of a would produce a reflection across the x-axis and a vertical stretch? A, 5. B, 1/5. C, negative 5. D, negative 1/5. Number 24. Which equation represents the image of y equals x squared after a shift 4 units to the left? F, f of x equals x squared plus 16. G, f of x equals x squared plus 15. H, f of x equals x squared plus 8x plus 15. J, f of x equals x squared plus 8x plus 16. Number 25. What is the vertex of the function g of x equals 5/2 times x minus 4 squared minus 1? A, 5/2 negative 1. B, 4 negative 1. C, 5/2 negative 4. Or D, negative 4 negative 1.